Good evening, and welcome to The Caring View, the online health and social care platform free to access to absolutely everybody. Tonight, we're diving into the essential topic that is living well with dementia and supporting positive and empowered lives. We're going to explore strategies to foster independence, dignity, and joy for people living with dementia, ensuring they lead empowered and fulfilling lives. So join us throughout tonight's show as we share some great insights, inspiring stories, and some top tips for you to help reframe how we view living with dementia. But before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that like, give us a follow. We are live tonight across Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, X, and Instagram. It's growing every single week. www.thecaringview.co.uk. You get access to all of our free resources, our podcast episodes, our chat show episodes, our suppliers lists, and most importantly, our sponsors. Because yes, we get sponsors. We cannot do this without the wonderful, generous donations from our sponsors. Mark and I do everything for absolutely free. You have free access to everything that we provide, and we will never charge you. So without further ado, roll call to our sponsors. And I've lost my link, but it's coming now. So we have Prosperwell, the UK's leading digital marketing agency, www.prosperwell.co.uk. If you missed the links, I'll pull them up. Don't worry, because they will be showing up across the screen throughout tonight's episode. We have CBAT, Care Business Associate Training, for all of your health and social care training requirements. Attis Care by Attis Insurance Brokers. They are more than just your proactive risk management and your insurers. They are a helpful voice at the end of the line. We have Log My Care, a really great platform for digital social care records, believing they still have a freemium version out there. So if you want to try them out, you can do so for free. So go visit them. We have Florence, directly connecting healthcare professionals and organizations with shifts and training, a great alternative to agency work, and a really great learning platform as well. We also have Health Automated. Jack, I apologize, I've not got your banner sorted yet, so we will make sure that your website goes up on this. And last but not least, one second, I pulled the wrong one up. Last but not least, we have UK Care Week. For those of you that don't know, we are doing a theatre at UK Care Week in March. So please go sign up to UK Care Week now. You can get your tickets nice and early, and you can join us for 2 full days of fun and education. It's going to be great. I know you never thought fun and education would go in the same sentence. I never thought skinny and hair would go in the same sentence for me, but here we go. It's 2024, so let's change our way of thinking. Good evening, Mark, and how are you?
Yes, good evening. Not too bad. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. I've just got over that rotted bug that's going around. That seems to be infecting everyone in the minute. Yeah,
it's definitely going around. So, yeah, everybody I speak to seems to be under the weather, but...
I was going to say something really gross then. I'm going to say it anyway. The green that I cocked up yesterday was a fabulous green, and I thought to myself, God, I wish I'd have chosen that. But for my walls in my living room, it was just a really good green. But I'm clean now. I'm clear. I'm feeling healthy, and I'm feeling fit. So tonight's show, Living Well with Dementia, supporting positive and empowered lives. If you've got questions, if you've got tips, pop them into the comments, and we will bring them up throughout the show. But let's introduce our fabulous guests. So I'm going to go top to bottom. So, Kay, good evening, and where are you from?
Where am I from? I'm from Splice of Lime, so I'm a marketing agency in the care sector as well. So I've been in the care sector for a few years. I'm also a non-exec director at NACAS, National Association of Care and Support Workers, which I work with Beth there. We know each other from that place.
Fantastic. Welcome to the show tonight, Kay.
Thank you.
Dr. Emma Williams, tell us a bit about yourself and where you're from.
Hello, thanks for having me. So I am Dr. Emma Williams, and I'm a behaviour analyst who is the director and founder of Positive Aging Consultancy and Training. And what I do is provide behavioural support to people living with dementia and training up their caregivers in behavioural techniques to help them kind of understand why different behaviours might happen and the best way to support them to get people's needs met.
Fantastic work, Emma. Absolutely fantastic work. Am I okay calling you Emma throughout the show, or would you prefer Dr.?
No, Emma's fine.
And Beth, good evening. Welcome to the show. Tell us a bit about yourself and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Beth Hendy and my company's called And Wiser. I'm based in Morpeth, Northumberland, and I support people to live well with dementia. I provide practical solutions, hands-on support, and I'm really into technology, all sorts of gadgets, and also really simple and practical things as well. It's all about getting to know the person and then helping to make sure that they live well, solve their problems, but also help them to really get into doing the things that they enjoy doing, make sure there's no barriers there.
Oh, wonderful. Well, welcome to the show, Beth, and thank you for joining us. I'm going to hand over to the fabulous Mark.
Yes, thank you very much. So I think the first question I've got is, I think the majority of us will be supporting people that have had the diagnosis, quite likely to have been supported by an unpaid carer, family member, a neighbour or a friend, and then have come into a care service when needs must. I want to kind of jump back to the kind of diagnosis stage around actually what tips are there for that diagnosis. And obviously people will be diagnosed in their dementia journey at various points, but what practical tips are there for somebody watching tonight? It might be that there's an unpaid carer watching that's currently going through that with a loved one. Beth, I'll come to you first, then I'll come to Emma, and Kay, I'll then jump over to you.
Okay, I think it's really important that people really find out all the services and sources of support that are available to them, because so often when I'm talking to a family, a carer, or the person themselves, there's just been so much information initially given to them, but then sort of life takes over, and months later that information just isn't there. They haven't accessed it. So quite often, just in sort of half an hour to an hour with somebody, I can go through with them who are the organisations they need to support them, who could support them. And what I do in particular is I work in a really sort of ultra local way. So I live in Morpeth, a town in Northumberland. I know the services in Morpeth inside out. So I'm not just saying to somebody, you need to contact the Alzheimer's Society, you need to contact Age UK. I can say to them, Jenny and Abby, the dementia advisors at the Alzheimer's Society, are brilliant. They've helped other clients. I can say to them that the Age UK Dementia Social Group at the Methodist Church on a Monday morning is run by David. This is what it's like. The one at Ashington's different. You might prefer that one. It's that sort of local knowledge that I try and impart. But for somebody anywhere in the country, there's some key things you need to make sure that you're in touch with some key organisations and just make sure you're tapping into that support. I mean, social prescribers, the local GP service. So there's lots of sources of information, but I think it's quite overwhelming to just get a list. You need somebody to sort of sit with you and help you work out what's good for you and what at that stage. And then obviously things evolve over time, and then you need further support. So that's what I'd say, is get all that information together first.
Thank you very much. And I think you touched on some really good points there in terms of the dementia navigators and the local prescribers, because I think actually they go under the radar a lot. And I definitely think back to when I was managing a care home, actually, they didn't really come across the radar that much compared to my current role in reablement. And we have a lot of contact with them. And I think listening to you there, one thing I think lacks from when I started in social care compared to now is that nominated social worker or named person at the local authority that would touch base on a regular basis with that unpaid carer and the individual that had the diagnosis to offer that signpost. And it is kind of a minefield out there for some family members and people when they very first access social care. Emma, any further advice on top of what Beth's spoken about there, or anything you want to reiterate?
Yeah, I think Beth kind of covered all the main points there, but after a diagnosis, people can feel very, very isolated and like they're the only ones kind of going through that journey. And to give people as much support as possible so that they don't feel on their own. And if they start to see different behaviors happening, if they kind of know that other people have been through similar or are going through similar, then it can just really help alleviate that isolated feel. And knowing, so as well as all the kind of signposting services, knowing what benefits you might be entitled to. If you've got to then become a carer, you will be able to access some different type of support that might just, help kind of bridge that gap slightly.
Thank you. And I think isolation, and we should have said at the beginning, I completely forgot, is we did have a family member joining us this evening, but unfortunately due to last minute, they had to pull out. But I do think that actually you touch on a really valid point there, that actually a lot of unpaid carers have to give up work. They end up looking after their loved one. And then they do lose those friendships, the relationships that they've got outside, just because of that tie to looking after that person the whole time. But yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. And I think for any unpaid carers listening today, as hard as it is to carve out that time through respite to actually have that time for yourself, and just reassure people that actually that's not selfish, that's positive for your own mental health, to have that time to do something that you enjoy doing.
Absolutely. And it's not always easy.
No, it's not. No, completely understand. Okay, anything from your perspective in terms of early diagnosis?
There was a couple of things that you said that, I mean, they're not related to marketing per se, but in terms of my own experiences and family experiences around the mental health side, and I think what you do often see is a lot of feelings of guilt, in the way that you act, because a loved one does change, their personality can change, and what they're doing can really impact the family environment. So I know that there's quite a few resources out there, but this is where my head starts to flip into the marketing piece of, it's a big challenge for all of these sort of grassroots organisations to be heard and be seen and get to the right people. And I don't really have the solution for that, but it is definitely a big challenge.
No, absolutely. Adam, any thoughts from you on this one?
So for me, it is around trying to break down that stigma, isn't it? Do you know what? Mum's memory is not the same as it was, or there's a couple of accidents that are happening, or I'm having a couple of accidents and I don't remember things how I'm supposed to. And yeah, I might get a birthday card for my birthday that says, "I'm getting older, forget where your keys are." But actually, I'm going to go get checked just in case, because the sooner we find it out, the more support I can get, the more effective medications could be. I could do some lifestyle changes. It's like cancer. It's like any illness. Putting it off only makes things worse in the end. And I think it is super important for us to get that message out there, that it's really difficult to overcome that guilt of putting somebody into a care establishment or putting care in place at home. I've got first-hand experience of it. I've had it with my dad. I've got it with my grandma, who sadly passed a couple of years ago, and with my granddad. And there is that element of, they always said they didn't want to go into a place like this, but also knowing that if I keel over, there is no one there to support them. And we need to make those connections now. We need to get something in place so they are known to people so that they can be supported. And also, I can't put myself in the ground doing this as well. I can be there as much as I possibly can be, but there is an element of, these are my final years with somebody and I want to really enjoy it with them as well. And that's not selfish. It's not selfish to go, I need to take a bit of a step back because I need my mum to be mum, or I need my dad to be dad, or grandma and granddad to be who they are. So it's just around finding people to talk to. Find your local sort of support groups. There are dementia cafes out there. There are places where people can just go and offload and go, look, this is what I'm struggling with. I mean, not even in person. I mean, Facebook is full of them. And if you want to be completely anonymous, go onto something like Reddit. There are so many forums on things like Reddit and other chat forums where you can go and just talk about stuff open and freely and ask those questions you might feel ashamed to ask out loud or around people. And I'll always come back to, there are no such things as stupid questions. The only thing stupid is not to ask them. And just ask as much as you can do. It's a really emotive topic, this tonight. It's a really hard-hitting one. And it's really close to home. I mean, we've spoken about unpaid carers, and there's something like 5 million unpaid carers at the last survey in the UK, well, in England and Wales. And they envision that the number's actually a lot higher. They think it could be in the 10 million figure of unpaid carers in this country. And actually, that's 10 million people who day in, day out are also struggling. So we've got all the people living with dementia, and like Jenny says in the comments, it's important for us to realize as professionals that not everyone lives well with dementia. You know, we can say living well with dementia, but it's not the case for everybody, and it can be very difficult for some people. So we've got all of those people living with dementia in the country who are going through what they're going through, and then you've got the loved ones who are looking after them. So 10 million unpaid carers, 10 million people, whatever, being cared for, being supported by people. That's 20 million people, if you think about it, who just need a hug, who just need support, who just need some advice. So I'm going to love this conversation tonight, I think. And I'm a very emotional person, so I can see me crying at some point. I can feel myself welling up now. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think there's quite an important comment there about misdiagnosis, and I'm really interested to hear from those that have got more experience than me around diagnosis, and because some of my own personal experiences, it can be quite a challenge to get a diagnosis early on, because obviously things haven't necessarily developed as far. And I'm just wondering what everyone's experiences are there, and whether you've got any experiences as well of misdiagnosis.
I mean, Emma, I'm presuming this could be one for yourself, and I don't know any stats on this. I'd be interested to know how often it is misdiagnosed. I would be inclined to say it's probably more misdiagnosed in the younger generations, because one of my next question, spoiler, is about misconceptions of living with dementia, and one of the biggest ones is only old people get it. Only people who are in their twilight years get dementia, and that is not the case. So misdiagnosis, any examples or any sort of knowledge you've got on this, Emma?
So I don't actually know the stats about that. I'll be upfront about that. But I do know that people will sometimes try and keep going and assume that it's potentially them getting older, or their partner getting older, or their mum or dad, or whoever it is that they're kind of caring for. And they might not even suspect anything at first. They might just think, oh, you know, they're putting the God, I'm trying to think of an example now. They're putting the garlic bread in the washing machine, for example, and it's just like a one-off. And they think, oh, you know, we all do mistaken things like that. You know, all of us do. And I guess people, it's then becomes the new normal. So they get used to maybe covering up for someone that they're caring for, that things haven't, they're not maybe as open as they could be about how bad things have got. They don't necessarily want that stigma, like you kind of mentioned. So yeah, I think I'm not exactly sure of the stats around it, but I do know that a lot of people will try and cover up for longer than they should.
I suppose it brings me to another point, which is probably not a nice point to make, but one that I think we should be aware of. And it's not necessarily being knowledgeable of our loved ones, but also our neighbours and our friends, because there are people out there who will actively choose not to get a loved one diagnosed because income, cost, not wanting to spend on care, and then we run into safeguarding issues, and it happens a lot. It's not an infrequent thing. If people aren't being looked after properly by loved ones, or people who are close to them, it's important that we get to know our neighbours, about bringing a bit of that community spirit back, isn't it? And noticing that, you know, Doris next door keeps putting the wrong bins out, but I've given her the same bin sheet to tell her what the bins are, or is leaving her keys in the door all the time, and going, I need to talk to someone about this because I need to make sure she's okay, and being able to notice that for everybody else. Petros, we will look at getting a bit more information on misdiagnosis, and we can share that out. But Beth, have you got anything from your perspective to add on this?
Not on the misdiagnosis, no. I mean, what Emma was talking about there, about people maybe not understanding what the issue is to start with, and maybe living with it for longer than they need to. Yeah, certainly seen that. And I think it is just important that people understand what they're dealing with as early as possible, because the quicker you can get the right support in place, then the more you can mitigate against issues later on, the more chance you've got of having the best possible life while you're going through that.
Yeah. Braintree Dementia Alliance on Facebook have come through and said that thousands of people are misdiagnosed with dementia each year. This is partly because dementia shares symptoms with other conditions such as delirium, depression, and certain vitamin deficiencies. I also want to throw Korsakoff's in here as well, because if you've got a family member who is heavily reliant on alcohol, those symptoms are going to be masked heavily. And again, speaking from experience here, those symptoms get masked so much that actually it's not until much later on down the line that you'll realize maybe it's not the alcohol that's doing this, or maybe, you know, it's because of the alcohol, but actually there's a condition here now that is beyond the alcohol, and it's a dementia that we need to be addressing. Thank you, Braintree, for that. Braintree also said almost 2 in 5 with the condition undiagnosed, as per a report by BBC News. Doesn't surprise me. You know, wait times with the NHS, wait times to see people, the actual tests we've got to go through. If it's early onset, it's really hard to sort of definitively say it is what it is. And then, like we've already said, if they've got depression, if they've had an infection, all sorts, even having a fall, can create symptoms very similar to a dementia. So I'm going to move the conversation, well, still on dementia. It's what the whole show is about tonight. I'm going to throw a curveball to you all. But I want to talk about the misconceptions about living with dementia. Now, Beth, can I come to yourself first on this? What are some of these common misconceptions? We've already touched on age, but what are some of the other things we need to sort of what's the word? Make people aware of, if you know what I mean. Break down those sort of ideas.
Well, certainly the age, that is a big thing. I have clients who are in their 60s, and the only health issue that they have is Alzheimer's. They're physically fit and they're active in the community. And that's where it's really important that people are getting support to continue to live independently at home. So people living on their own, and there's no reason why they can't continue to do so if they've got the right support and there's people working with them who can get to understand what it is that's important to them, how they want to live their lives. And when issues start to arise, like things, maybe things go missing, things are getting misplaced, people are starting to forget to take medication, or not always washing, doing their laundry, things like that start to happen, then if there's support in place early, then that can really help. So I think that is something, certainly before I started to get more involved with people with dementia, I certainly in the past thought of it as something that only very old people got. So yeah, that is a common misconception. And I think also just that people think maybe of the later stages, and people don't think about those early stages when it is just small things that are happening, but they can have a big impact, and people can get so distressed by losing their wallet again, and not being able to find something and feeling stupid. And they're things that people can get support with, and there are things that can be put in place just to help make sure that doesn't happen, because there's nothing worse for that person or their family than seeing that unnecessary distress.
Sorry, I thought I was on mute then. No, I totally agree. And some really great points that you raised there for us, Beth. And it is around that, the stress that it brings. And I'm going to steal another one now. And Emma K, curse me, it's fine. But dementia makes people angry. You know, if you've got dementia, you're going to become a really angry person, and you're going to become really physically aggressive. And, it's really, really... But actually, try and put yourself in that person's position. Try and feel scared. Try and feel lost. Try and feel alone. Try and feel not recognizing your surroundings. And actually, what we see is somebody who's afraid. And a lot of the times when we say about people, you know, they became really aggressive when they got dementia, it's like, right, well, was that aggression a symptom of dementia, or was that a byproduct of what dementia was doing to them? So was it the fact that they were afraid that was causing some of that lashing out? And I think that's really important to understand when we think around positive behavior support, that actually there's much more to that person than them becoming angry. Let's think behind the anger. What could be getting that person angry? Emma, misconceptions of living with dementia. Throw some at us.
So I would say a very common misconception is that if you get a diagnosis of dementia, you can no longer do anything. You can't do anything for yourself. You can't look after yourself. You are not considered capable anymore as a human being. And like you were just saying then, Adam, is that if someone then exhibits different behaviors, so showing fear or anger or similar, people don't understand that those reactions are coming because of an unmet need. So if you've taken everything away from someone, if you've taken away their independence, if you're no longer giving them any choice about how they're cared for or what their life looks like, or if you're not allowed to go out for your daily afternoon walk or similar, then all of a sudden inside that person will start building up confusion and resentment, and they might not potentially understand why they're feeling that way depending on where they are in their journey. But it's a very common misconception, and people get all of their independence stripped from them. They no longer get given any choice and control over their own life, and that can be very, very heartbreaking to see. And it's always nice to be able to go in and support someone and give them those things back, because you can kind of almost see sometimes an immediate relief in that they now suddenly have a choice back about how they're cared for or what type of intervention they're given. And it's very important to remember that everybody is still a human being and they deserve to be treated as such.
Yeah, when you were talking then, you made me think of, obviously facilities with locked doors, and yes, they need to be kept safe. People need to be kept safe, but actually that doesn't mean they need to live in that building 24/7.
Yeah.
Go to the shops, go around the grounds, go to the park. I have a huge thing, and I'm gonna try and segue this into marketing and come over to Kay as well. But I have this huge thing around painted murals. I have this huge thing around distraction walls and things like that, because for me, all I see is they increase aggression. Walking up to a wall that looks like a bookcase and not being able to take a book out of it because of depth perception, and then the person getting angry because they can't do it. Painting a door so it doesn't look like a door, but you can clearly see the handle, and not being able to get through it just adds to that frustration. And I know they look well in an article, and I know it looks nice on social media, and oh wow, look how lovely that is. That looks like the shops when they used to go. Yeah, but it also looks like a window and a door to a shop, and the person's going to want to go in it.
It needs to be functional.
It does. It needs to be tactile. It needs to be functional. Stephen says this, my partner, when we play with our cats, and with the laser pen, and we play with the laser pen, and they run around on the ground and they try and get the laser, but there's nothing to grab. So after a while, it becomes a pointless exercise for them. So where's the reward on that? Where's the sort of gratification for what they're doing? And it's got to be something that they can relate to. They can actually experience. And I know that's a really bad analogy, but it's the same for people. Well, it's just the same for people. I'm not even going to say people living with dementia. It's the same for people. We need to be able to actually experience stuff. Kay, I'm going to come over to yourself now for your views on this. Yes, Braintree, sorry. Oh, we're on the same wavelength, you and I, Braintree. Wall murals. Ooh.
So just in terms of what's being said, though, I mean, I've got personal experience of all those scenarios that Emma is talking about. And I know Emma from marketing work, and I know her services really well. And it's... I just think it's really interesting to think about how you take that from a home environment. When we talk about unpaid care and obviously people who are actually placed in care, I guess there's a really big challenge, because when I think about my family who were looking after my granddad and they were coming up against all of these challenges, it's I guess it's really difficult for them to know where to turn to for support. I know we've talked about this a little bit off camera, and I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but I love the technology side as well. Clearly I love marketing, but I love tech as well. And I I'm really interested to hear from, I feel like I'm taking over a bit, but I'm here to learn as well. Interested to hear from Beth about what kinds of technology she actually finds useful for helping families in the home, because, you know, I just, find it really interesting, and I'm just really interested to hear some practical insights.
Well, there's so much stuff that you can use, and it does depend on the situation. Obviously, some people have a family member living with them, other people live on their own, and their nearest family member who's supporting them might live hundreds of miles away. So obviously, any sort of smart tech. I'm a big fan of Alexa for video calling, and you can put up on the screens. You can put slideshows and things, as well as having that ability to just drop in without someone even needing to say anything. I think one thing, linking back to what we were talking about there before, even just losing things can be so distressing to people. So you've got all sorts of devices these days, key finder type things. So the Bluetooth devices like Tiles or AirTags are fantastic to attach to things like wallets and keys, bikes and whatever. I mean, I had a fantastic example helping somebody find their wallet, walking around with the app through a little store, and hearing the beep and finding the wallet there under a pile of clothes that, was so distressing to have lost it. And we found it again with the app. In the house, what's useful is, if somebody's living on their own, is one of the simple radio frequency key finders, because using an app on a phone to find something can be really tricky, and it can be really tricky to talk somebody through on the phone, especially if the app's on the phone. So something a bit simpler with the remote control maybe attached to the wall so that doesn't go missing can be great. So if someone's on the phone to a family member saying that I've lost my keys, you can quickly establish whether they are in the house or not. So you can easily say to somebody, right, go over to the wall, press the red button. Can you hear a beeping? And if they can hear a beeping, then at least they know that they're in the house. A little bit harder then to find them, actually, because these things don't beep for very long. It's a bit of a two-man job, but at least that the immediate distress of, oh no, I've left them outside, that can go. But then when it gets to the point when you're worried about the person themselves maybe going missing, this is where I think there's the technology there. You've got to be careful with the Bluetooth trackers. So a Bluetooth tracker like an AirTag or Tile, it needs to bounce off a phone that's running that app. So if they don't have a phone with them, or they're in an area where there's not other people with phones, then they're not much use and they don't really update very often. So if you're using it for that sort of application, that's where investing in a proper GPS tracker, where there's normally an upfront cost and then a monthly subscription for that GPS. They are fantastic in terms of locating somebody quickly. And that's not necessarily just in an emergency, but it can be helpful. There might be an important appointment that they need to attend, and if they decided to go for a walk just beforehand, you need to find them. But the other thing that's useful, and this sort of ties in with Emma's work, behaviour analysis, is you've got that history as well, so you can see where somebody's going and what time they're leaving the house, and then you can start to track back and think if it's becoming difficult to manage, or they're maybe starting to leave the house at times of the day that aren't so safe, very early in the morning, maybe while it's dark. You can start to get a bit of information from that and start to look back to what was happening at 4 o'clock in the morning in the house. Maybe was there something that triggered that leaving the house? Maybe it's colder, maybe the heating needs to come on earlier. Was there some sort of noise or something else happening? So you can start piecing together the puzzle and think, is there something that can help us? Rather than start looking at, does somebody need to be put in a secure unit? Maybe there's something we can do to, help change things so that they don't get to the point where they're doing something that's unsafe.
Loved all of that. And I'm going to butt in before I hand back over to Mark, because you raised some really, really great technology, and all that technology is super helpful, and it's stuff I've used with my family in the past as well. But then I also have my professional hat on, and I sit there and I think, if I did this in a nursing home, I'd have to apply for a DOLS, because I'm actually restricting someone of their liberties. I'm stopping someone from living that free life. And for those who don't know, DOLS was supposed to be replaced with LPS. LPS has sort of become this sort of mythical thing now, where no one really sure if it actually ever existed in the first place, because it's just not here. If LPS does come into play, then I suppose this technology that we're so used to using in people's own homes, in supported living, and other similar places, will then be called into question, because actually it will be restricting someone of their liberties. You know, it will be a form of restriction, because we're monitoring them, tracking them. And then obviously it raises the ethical questions as well, of how much data should we be tracking and who has access to that. The main reason I wanted to interject though as well is, although technology is great, just to remind everyone about Herbert protocols. So if you've got people that are at risk of absconding or going missing, get yourself Herbert protocols in place. Make sure you've got them to hand so you can give them to the police. Think of things like, where did they used to go when they were children? Have they moved house, and would they go back to their old house? All of that super important stuff. Pop it in a bottle, shove it in your fridge alongside your fire stuff and all of that. It's just helpful.
There is actually also some police forces now, including Northumbrian Police, have, I think it's Safe and Sound, they call it. You can actually register it online in advance. It's not all police forces yet, but in Northumberland, the local police force has a facility for doing that. And it just means that if there is a crisis, then you're not, even if you've prepared it in advance, you're not fumbling around for it and having to send it somewhere. It's already there, which is a great scheme.
Thank you, Beth. Sorry, Mark, over to you and Emma.
No, that's okay. All great stuff. I've just shared one which is in Calderdale, but I'll find a more generic link for the Herbert protocol. But Emma, over to you. You're on mute, if you can find
There we go. Yeah, so I think technology has a huge place in the kind of future of dementia care, or care in general, really. It's the way the world is going. And I think rather than be scared of it, we need to kind of embrace it and learn to use it in a way that for future generations that are going to have to go through this type of thing, to make sure that we've got solid evidence in place that supports and we kind of learn from how technology can be used. So I know there is already a huge amount of technology, like Beth was talking about, that can already be used in someone's own home. And from my point of view, if it's someone's wish that they want to stay in their own home for as long as they can, rather than go into a care home, you know, obviously if they've given consent or someone else are kind of giving consent for them, if they're not able to, then if we've got technology in place that allows them to stay there for longer, we're kind of meeting their wish and their needs in the best way that we can. So like the stuff that Beth was talking about, we've got door sensors, motion sensors. We can set up Alexa devices to react to those types of things. And we've got home automation systems such as Home Assistant, which can be programmed to set up things like if an event happens, then trigger something to happen. Sorry, I hit my microphone then. So I do think, although some people are wary about where it might go in future, I do think there is a huge place for it. And if you're using technology for some types of care aspects, we may well be able to get people's needs met in a more effective way than not using them. I am actually working on something currently which will be a global product when it's released. I'm not really able to kind of say what it is about at the minute, but it is a tech-based product. And if anyone wants to sign up to hear more about it, then they're more than welcome to use the link that's just been posted and kind of join that list. And when it is released, you know, we'll send out all the information about how people can access it and exactly what it does, but I just can't quite say yet.
You're such a tease.
Sorry.
Thank you very much for that, Emma. I was just making some notes around, and I'll touch on the technology bits. And then before I move on, Adam, I'm going to bring you in. I think when we were talking around misdiagnosis and some of the bits, just wanted to put my LD, my learning disability hat back on. The number of people living with learning disabilities that also have dementia and it's masked and go undiagnosed. And I think if there is anybody here, and we quite often have people viewing that work in learning disability services, is around that awareness for your frontline staff, but also to empower them about the challenges, because I know that a number of the services that I've worked in the past, when I felt like somebody has dementia, actually there's a knockback from a lot of healthcare professionals that think, oh, they've got a learning disability, so what's the point of having a diagnosis of dementia? Or age goes against them because they don't feel they're old enough, or the challenges from your own colleagues around actually why would you push for it when they're already receiving care and support, and what's the point? And I think there are a lot. So I think if you're a carer or even if you're a manager, actually empowering your staff team to follow that. It does come with its own challenges in terms of local authority funding, especially where I am, with 3 of the local authorities that I've worked with in the past, is that the second they've got the diagnosis of dementia, because it's obviously a lot cheaper to put somebody in an elderly service than it is a learning disability service, they quite often try and pull the person out of that one service and move them. And obviously then they lose their friendships, the support network that they've built living in the learning disability home. Just in terms of the tech, because there will be people watching, there is so much tech that is already on the market in terms of what you and I can all access. And I think sometimes we hear about specific AI products that can be built into an Alexa device. And I think for the majority of people, actually try what you can get on the street market first, as opposed to diving into a lot of expensive tech. And a lot of those automated devices that, you know, like the Google Alexas, like the Google Home products that can do. And just in terms of Google Home, I tried with Alexa with my smart lighting and sensors, and then the Rabbit ate through the main hub, and it was disastrous. But I'm going to hand over to Adam just because to talk about Google Home products, just because I know Adam is a big fan, but actually how it could support somebody living in their own home.
So I love a Google Home. All I need to do is say, ho, 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 and it turns all my Christmas lights on for me. It's amazing. And my life is my house, everything is run through smart tech. I do want to say one thing, though, about if you're going to be using Google Homes, Alexas, and things like that. They have a thing called drop-in. And that is where someone can drop in to that device and give them a call and say hello, and it's wonderful. It's brilliant. Please check your privacy settings. You have to make sure that your privacy settings only let trusted contacts do that drop-in. If you don't, you run the risk of anyone being able to drop into a device. And there's nothing more confusing than someone dropping in and you not being aware of it. I had some music playing the other week, and it was really good music. It wasn't trash music, and I've only got good taste. And someone dropped into my device and was like, we've listened to this music all day long. Will you please turn it off? And I was like, oh, I'm turning that privacy setting off for starters. I'm not turning my music off. But that actually made me think, crumbs, I've not done it myself. And I tell people about it, and I've not done it myself. But super useful. You know, I use it to set my reminders. One of the most handiest tools that I use mine for is to remind myself where I've put things. So, you know, you go on holiday, you use your passports, you put your passports away till your next holiday, which, if you're like me, 1 a year, if that. And you go, when you're coming up to your holiday, oh, where have I put my passport? All you need to do is say, remind me my passport is in this cupboard. And then all you need to do is ask it in the future, where's my passport? Oh, I remember you told me your passport is here. Oh, perfect. Fantastic. Reminders. If you've got a good, let me see if I can show you it here. I don't know whether the cable. So this is one of my Google Homes, and it's an actual screen. And so this brings calendars up for us. You know, if there's something coming up that we need to be aware of, it pulls it up, it tells me the date, it tells me the time, it tells me the weather. It could bring family photos up for me at that same time. And most of it is just voice controlled. It does take a bit of tech to actually put that in place. But if the person who's using it has the ability to ask questions and has the ability to understand how to activate the device, they are a godsend. what time do I need to take my? I'm not going to say Alexa or Google because everyone's things are going to go flying off or all around who are listening to this. But what time do I need to take my medications today? Do I have a doctor's appointment today? What's my calendar like today? It gives you all of that information. You know, we used to. My granddad's adamant he doesn't want one. Has a chalkboard and will continuously wipe off the information from his chalkboard. I'm like, how are you supposed to remember what you're doing, Grandad? You just wiped everything off. Let's get you a digital device and we can set it up to remind you at certain times. But even down to automated medicines dispensers, you know, the amount of people that I've spoken to in the past who have gone, oh, it's really annoying. I need to go to my mum's 4 times a day to give her tablets because she forgets to take them. Does she? Is it just forgetting, or is it just the time of the day, or does she not know what medicines are? Oh no, she knows what they are. She just forgets to take them. Get an alarmed medicine system. Give her her independence back. Put the medicines in there. Alarm goes off. She tips them out. Takes the medicines. Really, really beneficial. And that's not even smart tech. That's just a device with an alarm setting in it. But no, the Google Homes, things like that. Things like, oh well, she always forgets to turn the heating off. My Google Home is linked to my heating thermostat. So it runs on a setting for me. I can change it anywhere in the world. So even if mum hasn't done it or grandma's not done it, log into the app, turn the heating down, set it so when they go to bed, because you know what time they go to bed, the heating comes on. You know, things like that, really, really, really beneficial and super, super useful for people. And I do know there's also sensors out there now that can alert people when taps are still running. You know, things like that. Really, I love technology. There is dangers in technology, and I will be that person that goes, technology is amazing, but doom and gloom. We must remember to be safe with it. But it is so liberating, and even for myself, you know, none of my lights are controlled by switches anymore. You know, so the person falls. Oh my god, I'm taking over the show now. But oh, mum always falls when she gets into bed because the light is at the other end of the bedroom, so she turns that light off and can't see her way to her bed. Fine, set up a smart bulb, gets into bed, turn off my lights, and then the lights turn off. You know, it's really, really clever in those respects. And if the person is able to say those things, they wake up in the middle of the night, turn my lights on, does it all for them, and it removes that other element of risk of falls. I also advocate motion-censored night lights because they are incredible, and I've got one at my house because my bathroom's right next to the top of my stairs, and I am not going like that. I am not falling down my stairs, so I need a night light to help me. Sorry, Mark.
No, thank you very much. Thank you. So in terms of tech and technology and thinking more so around how care providers can learn, one thing that we get contacted about is trackers a lot, and whether we have a tracker for this or how people will track kind of various different things, and thinking about some of the behaviours and the impact that dementia might have on somebody. Just wanted to speak to you all around how care providers or a loved one can analyse kind of the behaviours that they see from the person living with dementia and how they can utilise that data. Emma, I'll come to you first, then to you, Beth.
So the whole kind of ethos around behaviour analysis, and obviously I'm a behaviour analyst, is the more data you've got, the better. And people will often think that behaviour happens out of nowhere, or they think it's just the dementia. But that's kind of not true. So behaviour always happens for a reason. We might not always understand that reason. And someone with dementia, their understanding of what's going on around them in the world might be very different to what we see from kind of looking in from the outside. And what we essentially do is assess the environment, assess the behaviour. It's very person-centered approach. We're always incorporating the person and their life history and their likes and dislikes and preferences to find out exactly why behaviours are happening. And a lot of the time, when someone has a diagnosis of dementia, what caregivers will really struggle with more than most other things is learning how to support with those behaviours, because they don't understand why they're happening. It doesn't make any sense to them, and they can really kind of struggle then to help someone get their needs met. So actually something I did based on my clinical work that I've been doing around North Wales is develop a range of courses which is aimed at new carers. So people that didn't necessarily expect to find themselves in the position that they're in when they start caring for someone. And it's all about giving them that basic behavioral knowledge and some kind of really practical tools to help them start to understand why they might be seeing certain behaviors in the person that they're now caring for. And obviously with more complex cases, you'll always need a behaviour analyst to kind of come in and carry out those detailed observations and assessments. But those very basic behavioural tools can be really, really vital in changing how someone views the person that they're caring for.
Very much. And I think just listening to you there, Emma, in terms of actually as a care home provider, if you need support from a behaviour therapist or a dementia specialist, actually they're going to ask you for a lot of this information before they come in, because they're going to need that data to be able to analyse it, to then be able to put that support in. Beth, anything that you would like to add at all?
Yeah, just to say what Emma was talking about there is so useful. So in particular, things like personal care and bathing, when somebody stops taking care of themselves in the way that they used to, that's a really difficult one for families to deal with, and just having access to that sort of detailed information, because I think people don't think about that it's people are behaving in a way for a reason, and then just unpicking that for people is so useful. I mean, the sort of thing that in terms of data, just looking at how people are behaving in their houses. I mean, there's some simple stuff around the temperature in the house. When appliances are being used, washing machines, showers and things, you can get some raw data like that can really help you to start to understand how people are changing the way they're behaving. And motion sensors, they're really, really great. I spy on my mum with one of those. I just have one simple motion sensor in her kitchen, and it gives me so much peace of mind, because I know she's up in the morning and I know what sort of time it is. And then even if I'm just going to call her, I'll wait till she's up and then I'll call her. But obviously if she's not up by the normal time, then, I know to maybe, give her a call. And it's a very, very simple device. And you can get all sorts of things that cover the entire house and have all sorts of sensors, but it's about fitting it to what your needs are. And sometimes, it's just a little bit of reassurance, and there's so much technology to choose from. It's just targeting it at what you need.
No, absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head there when you spoke about reassurance, because I think for a lot of people, that's all they want, is that reassurance that their mum, their dad, sister, brother, whoever it is up in the morning, has had something to eat, has had a drink, has, whatever part of their routine it is. I think there are some great systems out there that a lot of care providers use. It's the people living in their own homes that might not be accessing social care at the moment, that don't have that. Adam, any thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, and it's one that I completely forgot to mention when we were talking about tech, but it's smartwatches. It's wearable tech, and they provide so much data. Like, I mean, I don't wear a watch. I've been conditioned in health and social care now to be bare below the elbow, so I really, really struggle to wear a watch nowadays. I've just got back into wearing rings, and I think to myself, God, I wish I could wear a watch so it would tell me all this data. Lo and behold, Samsung have brought out a smart ring, which gives you that data. But a simple wearable like that tracks your motion, tracks your sleep, tracks your behavior, tracks your stress, tracks everything. And actually, you can pull a report up and it will tell you the times when someone was up and about most of the time. A lot of them have built-in falls impact sensors now as well, which you can link directly with emergency services. So I think if you are a family who is thinking, I really need to know more about mum and I'm not always at a house, I live too far away and I can't get that information, get her a nice watch. Get her a nice watch for Christmas. You've still got time, and you can get them with nice fancy straps that are in different coloured metals, and you can put watch faces on them that make them look like actual watches. Quite simple to use. I think you can actually lock them to a lock face as well. There are things out there that you can actually utilise that will passively collate all of that data for you. So you can think to yourself, I wonder what mum's night was like last night. Or do you know what? I'll log into the app. Oh, she was up 5 times. Oh my God, she was up 5 times. And then you start thinking, it's always this time that she's getting up. So is there a concern around that time? I would also say if you are with a family member and you're close to them and you're with them a lot of the time, try and log as many antecedents as you possibly can. So what happened before? Mum's been really angry right now. What happened in that lead up? So I'm not going to dwell on the fact that she's angry, because that's fine. She's angry. There's a reason why she's angry. Was it too hot? Was it too cold? Was the TV too loud? Was there too much noise going on? Like you say, was the washing machine on? Did someone come and knock on the door? Is there a dog barking? Because that will also allow you to figure out what those triggers are to that person's behavior as well. Because what might be a trigger for someone might not be a trigger for others. Mine is loud sounds. And I can tell you that now, if I end up with dementia, crowded places are going to be a trigger for me, because I struggle right now with it and I get myself frustrated already. And I'm able to regulate those emotions. If I lacked that ability to regulate my emotions because of a dementia, I am going to lash out and I am going to get stressed and I am going to shout. I can tell you that now. So just everyone, FYI, that's going to be a trigger for me, loud sounds in loud places. But that also allows you to tailor your events that you're going to do with someone to avoid those triggers. So mum always gets really, really angry when there's loads of noise around her. So I'm not going to take her to the Christmas markets. It's not going to happen. We'll go somewhere quieter. We'll go to the park. Oh, well, actually, it's just schools have just got out and there's going to be loads of kids there. Is taking mum to the park right now the best idea? Because if I take her there and it's really, really noisy, she's going to get angry. And although she'll forget why she's got angry and she'll forget we've been to the park and she's got angry because of that, that anger's going to stay. You know, that emotion will stay with her longer than that memory. So trying to understand those triggers as much as you possibly can do and noting them down. Because like you say, Mark, you get somebody professional-wise when they come around, they're just going to want to see the information. They're going to want to see how often. They're going to want to understand what's causing those triggers. Get ahead of the game, because it just helps you with accessing the services that you need, but also allows you to live a life with that person to avoid those triggers and to try and reclaim some of those happy times back without putting a loved one through the stress that they're going to see.
No, thank you very much. And I think if there's anybody listening tonight that thinks, oh, how do I monitor it? On our website, we have a ABC chart that's simple to use. Could be used as a care provider, could be used as an unpaid carer. And I'll share the link, but I'll also share a link to Log My Care, because they've put together a PBS ebook, which is 7 chapters long, but it's broken down into kind of bite-sized chapters, and just looks at tools and strategies, how to create a positive environment, how to engage and support your team. Talks about tech, but it also has a PBS plan in there, and that was created by a PBS coach that joined them to create that. So I'll share those 2 links, because actually they're both really good resources to have. I am conscious of time. Adam, I'm going to throw it back to you. Time always seems to go very quick on a Tuesday evening. It's like we're in a time vacuum. But over to you, Adam.
Well, I thought to myself tonight, you know, as we do at the beginning of every show, we've got an hour. I hope it's going to be a really good conversation. Mark and I had a massive list of questions, and we've barely touched them. Dementia is a topic. There's over 120 types I think we know of dementias. Well, probably way more than that. So it is a topic that could go on for ever and a day. I just want to ask each of you, if someone's watching this and they're just beginning on their own dementia journey, or they're starting a dementia journey with a loved one or a friend or a relative, what's one piece of advice that you'd want them to take away tonight? Kay, you're on mute. 1 second. There you go.
You as well. I was just saying, that's a tough one to throw at me. One piece of advice. I'm gonna segue back into marketing because that's my area of expertise. When I think about, I know this is advice for people at home, but when I think about the business side of things, and if companies, when we're talking about care providers, are doing the best they can with dementia services, obviously they should be utilising those in their marketing materials and messaging that, so that when people have to take the tough decision to put a loved one into care, they feel comfortable with the decisions they're making. So as I said earlier, I love the tech side. And I would hope that care providers, if they're utilising some really good tech, and there's loads of solutions out there, many have remained unnamed today, they should be putting some of those things forward when they are talking to you about taking your loved one into their service. So what would my one piece of advice be? Is to make sure you are asking lots and lots of questions around their specific services and things that they do to support your loved one, because there are so many things on offer, and they should have a whole ream of information and a raft of things that they're able to tell you about, because there's so much stuff out there. And this is why, we've not touched many of the questions, because it is such a big topic and there's so much out there. And we've got, just another 2 people here, Emma and Beth, talking on the topic, and we haven't covered half of the things. So it is massive. And I find it hugely interesting. And I know it's a really tough situation for many people at home, but I'm kind of excited for the future. We've got specialists bringing on services. I'm working with providers on other products, and talking around preventative care. And I think it's hopefully going to be an exciting future when we can take some of the learnings from care homes and share some of that information out to people who are trying to do the unpaid care at home. I think once we can get to that point, it will be a turning point for people at home.
No, I totally agree with you, Kay. Thank you for that. Beth?
I think my one piece of advice would be for the family as a whole, the family carers in particular. My lovely clients and their amazing families. The theme that keeps coming back is that family carers just try to do it all. They try to be perfect and make everything right, and very often at the detriment of their own health and well-being. And it has to be, a family is a unit, it's an ecosystem. It's not just about the person with dementia. So my advice would be, just please think of everyone, and make sure you look after yourself.
Yeah, no, spot on that. That's great advice, Beth. Thank you. Emma?
Yeah, it is a really tough question. So I think biggest piece of advice, like I think it was Kay said, find out what your services are that you can access. And like Beth said, you have to try and look after yourself as well. And I would always say, pick your battles. It doesn't matter if the person isn't the same person that they were a few months ago, as long as their needs are being met. Does it really matter if they don't fold the laundry properly? Not really, in the grand scheme of things. So it's all about giving people meaningful jobs still, so that they feel useful and are still independent and useful to kind of the home that they're in. But definitely pick your battles and try to let some things go. As easy as that is to say, it's just sometimes the better thing for you to do for your own mental health.
Yeah, no, I love that. And also for theirs as well, because it could be a trigger. Telling someone that they've not done something properly when they think that they have is I'm inferior, I'm incapable, I'm an invalid, I can't do it anymore. A massive trigger. And I love that about meaningful occupation as well, making sure that there's stuff for them to actually do and be involved in. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Mark, any final tip from yourself?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just touching there on things to do. Actually, you could do the opposite and leave clothes lying around for people to fold. And I think one dementia prescriber that I once met said that a manual hoover was one of the best things that they gave to people, just to leave around their home so that they can actually just push it along. And actually for the exercise, I think advice is unpaid carers. I think tonight, actually, you might feel alone, but you're really not. There are thousands of unpaid carers out there going through what you're going through may be a slightly different story, and it's around networking. And I'll give a special shout out to Rights for Residents, because I think they do an amazing job at connecting carer to carer. And I think for care providers, engage with family members, especially if you're a care home. Actually, they want to be involved in the care of their loved one. And I think sometimes there is a barrier, but actually utilize them. You know, we have a massive recruitment retention issue, actually, especially over the winter, when we see a lot of staff either want to return to their home countries or are off sick. Actually, they could probably be some of the some of that staffing to help plug the gap you've got. So definitely utilize them. But I think most of all, it's just connections, whoever you are, whether you're a care provider, an unpaid carer, UI, whoever. Actually, one of the biggest ways of learning is through connecting with others.
Yeah, I'm annoyed. I'm sulking, Mark, because you stole mine. I was
Sorry, I took like 3 hours writing them down. Every time I had one, I was like, damn it, Kay's stolen that one. Kay's stolen that one.
No, you're totally right, Mark. People aren't alone. And although it can be quite isolating, there are things out there that you can connect with. There are places out there you can connect with, people you can go and connect with. I should probably make mine a bit more serious then now, and think from a professional point of view. Remember, capacity isn't a blanket term. And just because someone lacks capacity in one area doesn't mean they lack it for everything. So let's treat people like people. Let's just remember that these are people. They are not their diagnosis of dementia. They are not their multiple comorbidities. They are not anything other than a person. So let's just remember that people are people and put ourselves in their shoes. Think about the last time you were upset and how you wanted someone to treat you when you were upset. Just the same. It's literally just the same. And I think all of these top tips, obviously come back and watch the show, share it with your team, share it with loved ones, share it with anyone who you want to. But just remember all of these tips, and that people are people at the end of the day. And I think, Emma, you hit it for me, is pick your battles, because it's just so important. And actually, is it worth your stress? And I suppose there's that element as well of when we do a mental capacity assessment, we can't put our own opinions and our own thoughts into it. It's got to be that individual. So why, if someone's living the way that they're living, just because it's not how we would do it and it's not the way we would do it, should we let that annoy us, and should we then call people out on it? If they're causing themselves harm, definitely. But if they're quite content with how they're living, pick your battles and just be there for them as a person. I would also say, if they're used to stovetop kettles, don't go out and buy an electric kettle. Just keep them with a stovetop kettle, because you will end up with plastic kettles on hobtops burning away, and they are not. It's not a wise thing. So think yourself to what's the norm for that person. But for fear of taking the show on longer than we probably should, I just want to say a huge thank you, Kay, Beth, and Emma, for joining us tonight. It has been such a great conversation. We've got some lovely comments coming through in the chat. Great live, all very true. So some really, really, really positive feedback, and it's obviously resonating with people, this conversation. And it's a conversation that continues to happen and needs to happen. Doubt we'll ever find a cure, so there's always going to be this conversation that has to be had. This has been The Caring View. Next week, and I want to introduce next week's because it's something that's quite passionate to me. It's something that I'm quite behind at this moment in time. So for those of you who are aware, I'll have a double agenda next week. I lost a loved one very close to me to alcohol, but I've also gone sober myself. I've been sober a year and 4 months now, and next week's show is all around how reducing our alcohol intake, or if you're brave like me, ditching it completely, can really, really help you focus. It can help you achieve, it can help get your mindset into the place that it needs to be. But if you're watching next week's show after watching tonight, it can also help prevent you getting dementia as well, because alcohol can cause it. Unhealthy lifestyles can cause it. So next week's show is going to be really, really powerful, really, really interesting. You will have to listen to me drone on about the fact that I'm really proud that I'm a year, 4 months sober, and how much it's transformed my life. Don't come into next week thinking, oh, they're going to tell me to ditch alcohol. Not at all. Have a glass of wine while you watch the show. We don't care. It's all around those positive tips and how it can empower you to have a more fulfilling outlook on life, as well as perform better in your way. See, Mark, I didn't put you on the spot tonight. Well, Mark's going to turn around and tell me, no, Adam, that's not next week's show. It's the week after.
No, it is next week. And I was prepared this week. I was prepared. We will be, I think it's good just to caveat to people. If you pop over to YouTube after and just subscribe, we're going to be trialing a new streaming service next week. So we don't know how it's going to go, but we're thinking of moving away from StreamYard onto something else which is a bit more AI and techie. So yeah, watch this space. Hopefully the move is seamless, but if you can't find us for whatever reason, it definitely works to YouTube, so we'll definitely be on YouTube, but hopefully on all these platforms. And I think actually it allows us to stream to more, so we'll add another thing to our belt in terms of where we stream to. But
it looks quite funky. I'm quite excited. But Mark, seamless, you and I, in a sentence, never shall happen. There will be bugs, there will be hiccups. Just bear with us next week whilst we try out our new system. So thank you so much for joining us. This has been The Caring View, www.thecaringview.co.uk. Please go check them out. Check out the sponsors. You can find them running across your screen. Check out Health Automated, who built our website for us as well. We've got so many people out there who are so keen to see social care survive, and not just businesses, but actually people living in the community, people living with care, people who are living with unpaid care. There's this drive at the moment to make sure that actually everyone has the support they need. I say everyone, not Lancashire and South Cumbria ICB, who have just pulled the plug on our training hub, which means no free social care training now for Lancashire and South Cumbria, and I had to put that dig in because it's really wound me up this week. But the people who actually care are really trying their hardest to make sure that actually social care has the resources that it needs, and which is why we do everything completely free. We are never going to sit here and go, oh, here's a taster, have something and take it away. Just because it's free doesn't mean that it's not good quality. We work very hard with very, very professional people, with very, very knowledgeable people to provide these resources for you. So please don't be put off the fact that they're free. They're free because we love you all, and we just want you to be able to succeed, and we're not charging you. www.thecaringview.co.uk. We will be here live next Tuesday at 7:30. Mark, is next Tuesday our last one before the break?
it is indeed, but I don't think we're away for long. I think it's only 2 or 3 weeks, just because there was such popular demand for 2025 that I started it kind of mid to end January, and then we're already in kind of April, May time. So I thought, I better bring us back early just to squeeze in an extra few shows. So yeah,
but then I expect Christmas jumpers next week, Mark. Then I expect Christmas jumpers. I'm going to be wearing mine. I've got one of Santa in hot pants skipping, and it's amazing. It's my favorite thing.
You'll have to remind me.
Thank you so much, everyone. Good evening. Please take care, and we will see you next week.
Thank you very much, everyone.